How are you?
A little frazzled from trying to get this room together. We're going to get a real studio going here pretty soon. Because it's only taken us 3 hours to set up for this. Well, tonight, I just want to mention that we have people who have been writing into us who feel very lost right now. They need direction for their life. And we've been praying about it, and I really felt the Holy Spirit nudging me this morning to do a heaven talk on this subject so we can give you some things to consider. And the reason why is because I think both of us have found our life path and are very happy in the ministry that the Lord has given us and the life that He's given us. But He sure writes straight with crooked lines.
It takes a while.
Oh my gosh, it's only been basically 30 years, 22 years, 24 years of following Him, and really someone wrote and asked us for a prayer for a word for the new year, and I wrote back to him and said, follow your heart. And that's what this is all about, because Jesus dwells in our heart. And if we listen to the movement of the Lord in our heart, then we can't go wrong. If He tells us what direction we're going and how it's going to all end, we tend to try and engineer the path ourselves. But rather than that, He tells us little bits at a time, and He asks us to be lovingly obedient. And sometimes it looks like we're going nowhere and doing nothing. And sometimes that is the most productive time in our lives. And I think the thing you'd agree with me maybe that a deep contentment and peace is really key.
Yeah, that's a good indicator, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions.
It's interview time.
Oh, yeah. So how long have you been a Christian?
Oh gosh, almost 30-something years.
Okay, so when did you begin to feel deeply dissatisfied with your life?
Well, you know, I came to the Lord in 1985. I was about 25 years old, something like that. And, you know, I had the honeymoon thing like we always do for a good year, maybe 2 years. But after having worked in ministry, inner city, and in some mission work, and also living in Christian community settings, I just felt that there was something more. I really longed for a deeper, more intimate walk with the Lord, as much as ministry, you know, if not more so.
Yeah. Well, I know that you were in ministry for a while before we met. Was that deeply satisfying for you? Did you feel that that was your path and that you were fulfilling something?
Well, you know, it was at the time. I think if I look at it, it's almost like there are phases, you know. And
yeah.
This was like the born again experience and the afterglow and the, you know, first days, weeks and months and a few years of ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And as a singer and songwriter and visiting different churches and outreaches, gosh, I was on top of the world. I could sing my heart out to the Lord and try to draw people in to that relationship with Him. But
and I have to say, you know, that you really did a wonderful job with that, because I remember in Arkansas when he would come up and sing a song, I was always so glad. Because we were checking out the Catholic Church at the time, and he would come during the offertory and sing a song, and the anointing was so strong. I felt the Lord so strongly. It was beautiful. And in fact, I started praying for you then, just as a brother, praying for you that you would find a way to be in full-time ministry instead of having to, I guess you're working for the health department. And
that's a good point to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, it's we don't always, as you know, just jump right into the mission field or ministry or whatever. But we kind of have to make our tents along the way, especially when we first get started.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an IBM shirt and tie one day, and then when my time off and weekends, I just kind of have my mission duds on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I just
And so that was a phase, and that's the right straight with crooked lines part. That was a phase, and I remember you began even in that position. You were feeling dissatisfied with your life. You felt like there was more.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I not only did I want to be in full-time ministry,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to be in full-time fellowship with the Lord. I wanted to
In
be
love with Him full time.
Yeah, and I wanted to spend more time with
Without
Him.
distraction.
Without having to stop for this and be interrupted by that. I really wanted some tuck-in time.
And you felt that in your heart. You felt that drawing
Oh yeah.
Drawing you into your heart.
Oh yeah, deeply.
And it's interesting because when we got married, he tried 6 ways from whatever Sunday or however you say it to get a job and to do some kind of work to bring money in. And the Lord simply would not open a door for him. The Lord would not allow it. And he didn't want to really do it, but then he did want to do it, so he'd make his best effort to get a job, but the Lord would always snafu it somehow.
And yet ministry opportunities began to come in more and more themselves, and by the kindness of good hearts, we were able to live a simple life, but a contented life, peaceful life.
Yeah. Well, how would you say the Lord guided you during that time to make the decision to, for instance, when we finally got together, and because I had absolutely no interest in my brother other than helping him with his career in music or with his ministry in music. I had my own things going on that I was doing, but there came a time after about 2 years when the Lord called us to be together.
Yeah.
And He opened our eyes. We
Right.
didn't know for a long time. We were just friends. But when you made that, you kind of made a plunge because you had to leave your old life behind.
Well, first of all,
How were you guided in doing that?
The break from the church body, typical church body, and friends, family, whatever, the familiar, the Lord began to really, it's interesting to begin to call me, like He called Ezekiel, my name. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together for a few years, but I remember every day, every morning and every night, He would give me some instruction from the scriptures. Son of man, do this, do that. Ezekiel was a prophet of signs, and the Lord would tell him, lay on your side for this many days, or cut your whiskers and run through them with a sword, or whatever. I remember the last day, I knew the Lord was calling me to leave, and family, friends, and church family can be very loving, to the point of not let go loving,
Right.
and even scandalized. The demons get in there, and what's he running from? What's she doing? Weird stuff. But
it was a radical move, believe me, and in front of the whole community.
The Saturday night before the Sunday when I left, I remember one thing I did. I just took a little short walk down the road and back, and I thought, I wonder what it's like to take nothing for the journey. And I had a couple of dollars in my pocket, and I just took them out, threw them away, I just pitched them. And
well, before you did that, though, what, after Mass ended, you walked
well,
out of it?
I was gonna say
Okay,
this
yeah.
was
Before you threw the dollars.
no this was the day before when
Oh,
I
okay.
pitched. But that night,
Oh, okay.
the Lord gave me a scripture from Ezekiel, son of man, cut a hole in the wall and walk through it as they are looking on. And I just knew somehow he gave me an understanding that I was to, you know, go to the service the next morning, play the music when everything was finished after the communion time and toward at the ending prayer, literally just walk out in the midst of them. And normally people would say, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" And people want to chit chat and whatever. And I remember it was almost like a holy numbness was over me.
Yeah.
I got up from my seat. I walked down the center aisle. It was like I was floating almost, and walked right through the back of the church. And I remember different people kind of, brother, oh, and it was like I just couldn't greet anyone along the way, so to speak.
No one along the way.
I just felt compelled to just keep walking.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, really. I thought maybe I'd just walk to Mexico or something. I had no idea. Never done anything like that in my life.
To work in the mission field.
Left my house, left my car, left my job, left everything.
Yeah.
Sent the notice in later and whatever, but just literally left. And
that was huge. That was like diving off of a canyon wall.
Well,
and hoping you land in a very deep water, very deep pool of water.
And I've got to admit, I was walking down this road, and I remember one last person in the parking lot, brother, what are you doing? And I said, just doing what the Lord said. I'm just walking. And everybody thought I'd gone whoop whoop, loop-de-loop nuts.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm walking down the road, and she and I had been friends now for a couple of years, and brother and sister, but even she didn't know what was going on. So I'm probably a couple miles up the road, and I hear this car kind of come up behind and ease off to the shoulder, and I hear this soft voice, brother, are you okay? And I look over, and I said, yeah, I guess so. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm walking. Where are you walking to? I said, I don't know. The Lord just told me to walk. And she said, well, can you take a ride? And I said, sure. And we ended up going to the Buffalo River National Park and got some ice cream on the way. And I didn't know it, but the Lord had told her to get a little room ready down the hill from where they lived. I mean, this is hillbilly Arkansas, Ozark Mountain
Dog
stuff.
Patch,
Yeah.
Arkansas.
Right, Little Avenue
Can anything
stuff.
good come from Dog Patch?
And
My angel.
I go to see this little shop she has with sawdust floors and trees and all this.
The rocks cry out.
Yeah, all this Christian art and paintings and
Photography
weaving and things.
Yeah.
And she said, "Let me show you something." And I walk into this beautifully swept little, literally like a little hermitage room, like a little room in a little cabin, you'd think, kind of off to the back and the side. Wood stove, floor neatly swept, neatly made little bed, and little wash basin, little table, and a simple cross on the wall. And I just saw that, and I thought, this is all I wanted, is just a place where I could tuck in and be with you, Lord. Well, of course, time went on, and it was funny. I started having dreams at night about my sister as a friend, and in the dreams, she would seem a little friendlier than a friend, and I'd wake up, in the name of Jesus, that's my sister, go away, So I'd try to stay there and be faithful to the Lord. And I figured I'd, Who knows?
Be leaving for Mexico.
Yeah, I didn't know. I just figured I had no inkling, or
Mhm.
dads, or brothers, or sisters, or whoever.
Right.
So they kind of flip out and wonder, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
where are you going? And what, you gonna have insurance? You gonna have that? I didn't know. I just wanted the Lord, and I didn't care about anything else at that point. You know.
Yeah.
It's like either these words are true in these scriptures, and I'm gonna go for it, or I'm not. And I because I had begun to feel insulated and lukewarm and too comfortable.
Too comfy.
Too comfortable.
Yeah, and then there was, I think you mentioned there was a sense of something really missing in your life, some kind of depth really, really missing.
Well, yeah.
Even as a Christian, I mean, here you are a Christian, you know the Lord, you're writing beautiful, intimate songs about the Lord, but still there was
a deep calling unto deep. I mean,
Mhm.
there was something that was, I couldn't explain it. I knew a lot of it was wrapped up in the Song of Solomon, the Song of Songs, that deep, intimate, spousal relationship with the Lord. Now, I know that might sound strange for men, but there was just, I know that the Lord created us out of love. Love gives itself away by its nature, but it wants to be returned and received. And
Yeah.
many of you know what it's like to love the Lord so much you just wish you could meld together and just be one with Him somehow. And I wanted that. I needed that. I couldn't live without it. I knew I couldn't
Well,
survive
and the
without it.
secular job was, you know, an environment that was against that, and a secular job really got in the way of that calling, that deep calling unto deep, and in his heart. And you know, this is one of the things I want to say is super important in discovering who you are in the Lord and what your mission is. There has to be a relentless commitment to following your heart and to following the Lord, no matter what the cost. And the scriptures even say, you know, that anyone who's not willing to leave behind mother, father, brother, sister, children, you know, whatever, not willing to leave that behind for the Lord's call, then you're not worthy of Him. People really thought you were nuts after you made that, yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the call was really strong in your heart. And did you have a peace about it?
I had a deep peace, you know, but in fact, God bless him, the pastor even came out within 3 days and begged and pleaded and argued and yelled, and I mean, he really was going after this lost sheep. And I had such a deep peace that, once again, the Lord had given me a scripture early that morning. When it is heaped upon him, he will sit in silence.
Yeah.
And I thought, boy, there's a storm coming. So I
Yeah.
just knew that the pastor was coming and I was going to get it.
Yeah.
And through that whole haranguing, I just was able to keep my peace and my quiet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean when he left I didn't break down, you know, and cry to the Lord. But
Yeah.
I, even with that, I still had a peace. I knew I was where I was supposed to be, doing what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a radical break and a move, and it probably did look freaky to people.
Oh,
but
absolutely,
I couldn't worry about that.
Right.
I had to have my heart, mind, and eyes on the Lord. In fact, I'm convinced that the reason He brought us together is that she had her heart and mind and eyes on Him, and had for years, and so did I. And our paths just naturally kind of converged because we weren't looking for a spouse. We weren't looking for this. We were looking for Him, and He brought us together in Him.
Yeah, and that's another point that I want to make in our quest for the mission that God has for us. Again, we don't want to try to second guess the Lord and jump ahead of Him, looking for a spouse or whatever. But the little obediences, the little things, where to live, you know, what area you're supposed to live in, what church you're supposed to go to. If He asks you, if the Lord asks you to move, and He puts a yearning in your heart, I was in Phoenix at the time, and he put a yearning in my heart to go to Arkansas. And that was near a Christian community that had been an inspiration to me. And I was, I made that change. I left behind things, everything in Phoenix, and I moved on. And there was a little step. Well, it was a big step, but it was a little step. When you look at the whole journey, it's really long. So then there came a point in time, and it seems that the Lord gave you a word about bringing the factions of the church together.
Yeah,
Unity.
He really, through a series of visions and dreams and just a deep inner speaking of the Lord, I really felt like he was asking to bring the broken parts of his body together. And in fact, it was interesting because looking back, we had a cross at the time that had the image of Jesus on, like, crucifix.
Mm-hmm.
And it kept falling and breaking. I mean, one time it was a hand, another time it was an arm, another time it was the legs. Once that, it was like almost like the head, but it was like the body, this image of Jesus on the cross, kept falling somehow, and parts were break. It just wouldn't stay together.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. I thought it was demonic at first until it started to get the message that, wow, the body's pulling apart from itself or something. Something.
It's fractured and divided, and the calling was on both of our lives. And at that point, I was supporting him in his ministry, and we were singing together and traveling together. And then there came a time when the Lord called you to put up the music.
Yeah.
For a reason, and you want to explain?
Well,
this was a direction that, one of those crooked lines that seemed totally out of whack with what we thought we were supposed to be doing, right? But there came a time when the Lord really switched gears on us, and he asked you to put your music away for a season.
Yeah, that was a big one. And I remember I began to just lose any inspiration for singing, writing, playing music. I just lost my heart for it. And I thought, man, what's wrong with me? What's going on? But at the same time, I was feeling, yet again, a deeper pull to prayer, into time. It's like when he talks in the scriptures. I can't tell you exactly where it is, but through the prophet, he says, come away, I'll draw her away to the desert, and there I'll speak to her heart.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of thing as be still and know that I'm God. And this was more than, spend an hour instead of 20 minutes with your coffee. We were traveling in an RV bus cross country and had finally settled into an area here in New Mexico. And I began to see, wow, that was a real part of my identity, and, this troubadour for the Lord. And all of a sudden, I didn't have any identity at all except in him. But that was okay, because I didn't want anything but him at that point,
Yeah. Well, and, sometimes people can look at you and see you as a thing, a clever
musician.
song, a clever musician, and an interesting couple, and they get their eyes off the Lord, and that's not what we wanted.
Yeah, I remember he spoke to me one night in particular before the putting away the music, and he said, "You're stealing my bride." And I thought, what? Stealing your bride? That's all I want, is to bring your bride to you. And at that time, we'd show up at churches, and we always, face the people and play. And from that moment, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want them looking at me or us, or,
right.
Ooh, the guitar, and oh, this, that. So we began to turn our side to people and face the pulpit or sanctuary or whatever, and it would be like, what are they looking at when they're singing? Like, we're looking at the Lord. We're not looking at the congregation anymore. And it wasn't too long after that he had me put it away altogether for a season. Long season actually.
Yeah, yeah. So that was another one of those crooked lines, that we're talking about, and it was important in our formation to be able to serve Him, to lay that down.
Well, and to be honest, I didn't know it, but the Lord was preparing me through that to raise Clare up into a ministry in her own right, through her own gifts and talents, and at the age of 57, you picked up
58.
58.
He
Picked
gave
up music. I gave her a little mandolin in an open tuning, and she'd sit there by the hours and plunk and plink, and I mean that led to a cello, which led to a harp, which led to a beautiful keyboard. She started writing this beautiful music and recording it, and all this stuff was coming out of her. In the meantime, I'm just like, bleh, no inspiration, no nothing. And I finally got it again, duh. I'm supposed to just support her, I guess, and be her covering and her underpinning. And I was feeling called deeply into prayer anyway. And I was really happy at that point. I mean, I might do a few background vocals for you or a little guitar here and there, but it was pretty rare. I just wanted to put a little trim here and there if I was needed, but most of the time I was out of the picture, and that was okay.
Yeah, the crazy part is our styles are different.
Very different.
It would be so nice if they weren't, but they are,
Yeah, it's all right.
And we can, we can fill in for each other sometimes, but basically it's not really easy to do that because our styles are so different.
Yeah.
There was something I was wanting to say. Oh, well, so in the beginning, for the first few years, I supported you in your ministry. That was the thing.
Right.
And nothing was really important to me except raising my children and supporting you in your ministry.
Well, you had a Christian bookstore, remember, which we talked about, the little thing. And she had to shut that thing down, pack up whatever books, and get on the road with me almost overnight. I mean, that was laying a lot on the altar to follow this man across the country who the Lord, was bringing this relationship closer and closer to where we were married soon after, probably within several weeks after that.
Yeah.
But
right.
She had to lay a lot down to support me and get behind me. I never knew what it was like to have someone put a cup of coffee in front of me or have my clothes pressed and ready and my guitar ready, everything just so. So all I had to do was just be with the Lord, be prepared, and just show up and let Him do, hopefully, what He was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real blessing.
And it was really wonderful for me because I could feel that I was backing Him up. And, some couples would look at that and say, well, what about you? And about me was I was finding my joy in serving Him and supporting Him in what He was called to do. And that's another point of obedience. I mean, this was the obvious thing for me to do, was to be there for you. And that's what I'd been praying for. I was praying that your music, that you could come into your ministry.
Plus, the bottom line was our hearts were still for the Lord and to bring people closer to the Lord and helping any. And I'm telling you, we weren't just, la playing music in churches and traveling. Sometimes we were washing dishes in the homeless shelters. I think there were a couple times we stayed overnight in some places like that. But, it just whatever we could do to help. And, but whatever the Lord wanted to do in that moment.
Well, and we also went on the odyssey of cross-pollinating churches and being pollinated, cross-pollinating the Orthodox Church. We learned a lot about the Eastern Christian Church.
Eastern, as in...
Eastern Orthodox.
Normally Greek Orthodox, Russian,
Yeah.
but also many Christians in Eastern Europe, from the Middle East to Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I had no idea we had so many brothers and sisters, and uncles and aunts and cousins.
And some black swinging black churches.
Oh my gosh,
that was fun.
The red velvet chairs and the organ playing and the bass. You know, Evangelist Ezekiel's going to talk to us today. And church mother be up there testifying. Ooh, don't be making no change in that plate.
Well, and the beautiful part was any legalism that was in our hearts or in our spirits, the Lord just erased it.
Just cut it.
Oh boy! Because we could see that people loved the Lord. You know, we could feel the presence of the Lord in all these different environments. And
all the judgments went out the window, and things we thought that we knew, things we thought we had heard.
Right.
Get out and swim around in the body a little bit. Wow, it's amazing. While you're learning and seeing this beautiful body, you know, some of you might rub off on them too. The Lord will work both ways.
Yeah. And we had a lot of judgments and a lot of opinions and a lot of ideas. And part of our formation was following this crooked line of going into different churches and traveling and visiting people and just sharing the Lord with them. And it opened our eyes, it opened our hearts.
Right. And not that it was all lollipop, la 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 either, because it wasn't always easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes there were some differences. Sometimes we call it the 3-day-old sock syndrome. You know, once you show up somewhere at first, oh, it's all wonderful. Second day, it's okay. By the third day, people start to want to know, you know, start digging. What really do you believe? And where are you from? And what kind of background? So regardless, some edges start to rub, some holy abrasion. And sometimes it's wonderful. You just go and you mingle and you have the right hand of fellowship. Sometimes you get the left boot of fellowship. And that can be real painful. But you learn not to quit. And I tell you, the beauty for me is that after years of this now, coming into areas where people really hang in there over the long run and don't just walk away. We were surprised and amazed that certain churches and certain people in churches and areas actually didn't just bounce you off the wall or accept you like you were, you know, candy and cake, but really hung in there and told you the real truth when you needed to hear it and would stick around for the uncomfortable thing.
So, you know, the point that I want to make here is that if we had gotten our mind on a Christian musician career, we would have totally missed what the Lord wanted to do. Yeah. And this is part of those little bitty steps of obedience and following what He wants us to do, even though it doesn't make sense. But it's in our hearts. You know, we can feel it in the heart, and our scripture readings confirm it. And in prayer, the Lord speaks to us and tells us different things. And He doesn't tell us exactly where we're going to end up, but He does tell us what our next step is. Yeah. And if we're not willing to lay down our agenda of, you know, the Christian musician, traveling Christian musician, getting recordings and out and things like that, if we're not willing to lay all that down, then we're going to miss the wholeness that the Lord is trying to create in us, to give us the depth that He wants. I mean, He spent a good 23 years preparing us for the ministry that we're just coming into now. Yeah.
Easily.
Tucking us away a lot, you know, and not you know, exposing us to different cultures.
Well, and one point that I'd like to make is, you know, so you're listening to this YouTube session of Heaven Talk, and you're thinking, well, how does that apply to me? I'm not a Christian musician. I'm not, you know, I don't travel. But have you had some kind of a change in your life? Do some doors seem to have been closing? Or have you had a restlessness? Could the Lord be asking you to take a step in faith. Maybe it doesn't all look guaranteed and it doesn't all look
Right.
easy. Maybe it looks hard. But what's worth the peace that you're really looking for, and the happiness and the contentment, the fulfillment that you really have always longed for? And you're probably going to have to spend some time with the Lord and ask Him, well, Lord, show me my heart. Show me what my gifts and talents are, or what the desires of my heart really are.
Yeah.
And He will.
And the thing is again, you cannot have your eyes on your agenda or what you think you want to do with your life. And this is where it gets hard, because the community, the Christian community that you're associated with, or the people that you know, are looking at you and saying, what are you doing with your life? You're just wandering here and wandering there. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why don't you get a job or settle down in a church and,
You might not always get the pats on the back, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scrutiny when you're not putting out a gross national product, The GNP of a Christian is personal holiness. It's holiness and love for the Lord. It's not albums that have been produced and are out, and books that have been written, and book signings and appearances here and there. That's not what it's about. It's not. There's no sense of worldly accomplishment when you're following the Lord. Rarely is there that sense of worldly accomplishment. If you get your eyes on that, you've missed it.
Right.
And you'll start tweaking your life to wrap around what's going to please other people and entertain them.
Or a position in a church, or what you'd like, what you kind of would hope to be, the prayer group leader, or the such and such ministry, or the deacon, or this thing or that thing. Who knows? But what does the Lord want? What does He?
Right.
Plus, not the voices. I can't tell you the freedom in being able to cut those leashes that pull this way and that way. The voices of the past, the mothers, the fathers, the uncles, the aunts, the cousins, the brothers, the sisters, the friends, the associates in the church.
Expectations.
Oh man,
everyone's got an expectation on what you should do,
and when some can be supportive and helpful, but
yeah, that's rare.
Be careful.
But your heart is tugging you in one direction for the Lord, and it doesn't make sense to people on the outside. So if you're trying to please man and to accumulate credits and look good to the world, you're never going to find the path that the Lord has for you. You have to be willing to be hidden sometimes, be willing to be passed over,
Right.
Be willing to be of no account, be willing to be called a failure. You have to be willing to be rejected, and that's one of the things that I talk about in the bridal relationship, is that the bride has always got a crown of thorns. If you look in her life, you're going to find there's a crown of thorns in her life. And she has to resemble the groom. The Lord is looking for a mate that resembles Him.
There's always a cup to drink. There's always a chalice that you're offered. Shall I not drink the cup that's offered me, so to speak? And again, there's joys. There's all those things. He said, no one who's given up all these things won't receive many houses and farms and fields and children and lands, all these possessions, and persecution beside, life eternal. Persecution beside. One thing I thought about when you said, keeping our eyes on the Lord, the little light went off. I think we need to keep our ears on the Lord, not just our eyes, but our ears. Because you've got all the voices telling you what to do, and the voices in your own head, and your dads or your teacher or your coaches, or who knows who or what. And I think it's important to put blinders on the ear gate as much as on the eye gate.
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and the tyranny of memories, memories of failures in the past. You can't be daunted or guided by anything other than the present moment, what the Lord is saying to you in your heart. And the reason that we wanted to share this with you is that we both feel that we've come into exactly what the Lord wants us to do. And we can see all of the formation that He's taken the time to do in the past 23 years. He's taken us in so many different directions. We weren't expecting to be landing in the place that we're in, but we're fulfilled and we're deeper than we were when we began. And I think,
and that doesn't mean we've arrived.
No,
I mean,
no.
Who knows? Within
that's
another
not happening.
5 months to 5 years,
Well,
if
yeah.
He tarries, who knows what He's going to do? But I can tell you this much: there's a deeper peace than there's ever been before, and a contentment and a real happiness and a joy, a gentle joy, a deep joy.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like if you took a bucket of water and or a bucket, and you put maybe just 2/3, maybe a half, and put it in the ocean, right? And you watch it kind of go, and it'll get tossed about here and there. But if you fill that thing 3/4 of the way up, more substantially, it'll take those waves a lot easier because it's deep and it's full, and it's not going to get tossed about as much. But it takes time to fill up.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
And there probably will need to be some healing along the way with some past word curses, failures, or supposed failures, condemnations, who knows, guilt, toxic, who knows. And the Lord can and will heal those things along the way. You don't have to always act and react to things and drag all that around. I'm certainly still in the process of healing and being healed from things and not reacting and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and I didn't want to imply that we'd arrived, because we haven't arrived, but we know that we're in the center of His will for our lives,
Right.
and there's great peace in that.
There is a peace, yeah.
So no matter what storm comes, I mean, if we were to lose our house, we'd be equally as happy as having our house, because we know that the Lord had a reason for that. We've seen time and time again that nothing happens without Him directing at His approval and making good come of it. And we look forward to what else He does, because we're growing. We're growing.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean it might not come with a at first, but you kind of get used to it. And we've been through this a lot. I think our first 10 or 12 years of marriage, we probably lived in 14 different places. I can't tell you the cars that have been donated, and then we give away the cars, and another one you can't outgive the Lord. The more you shed yourself of the clutter and the luggage and this whatever you have, the more comes in. And if He sees that you have open hands, He'll just keep sending you what you need, because He knows you're going to pass it on.
Right.
Corrie ten Boom used to say, the Auschwitz survivor that many of you are familiar with, the book and movie The Hiding Place came from her life. She'd say, I've learned not to hold things too tightly, because it hurts when the Lord has to pry my hands open. So she learned to be open-handed. Yeah.
So we just wanted to share that with you, and we're praying for your YouTube family. A lot of you right now are asking some questions about wanting to get deeper with the Lord and the directions that He has for you. And I think that the expectation of the rapture has probably caused a lot of people to miss what God wanted them to do, because they didn't think they had the time. But and I've struggled with that.
Oh yeah.
But the bottom line is, if He's asking you to do something, He knows about the timing. If He's asking you to go to college or university, or go to Christian university, or if he's asking you to go in the mission field, or get married and have children, he knows how all of that's going to work together, and you don't have to be second guessing him. You don't, if you're using logic and you're thinking and you're working it out on a human and worldly level, you're going to miss him, because he's in the heart and he's guiding you through your feelings, deep, deep, deep feelings, not the ones on the surface, but deep down inside. He's guiding you in your heart, and he's drawing you into a greater depth, and he's turning your head into different positions from where you may have gone or wanted to go, in order to help you be well-rounded, so that you can come into the fullness that he has for you. So it's a matter of trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really just totally trusting him.
A lot of surrender and
Yeah.
letting some things die away when they need to. And there's
not being overly concerned with what other people think. That's really huge.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest obstacle that we've had. And the devil jumps on that. He jumps in there with condemnation. What are you doing? I mean, how many times have you had to go through that scenario where you say, I'm going to get a job, and no matter what you do,
or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that,
But the job thing is huge. The devil's saying, well, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're not producing this. You're not producing that. You don't have a job. You're living on Providence.
Responsible American male.
And then you try to get a job, and the doors just close. It's not for you. It's not what he wants. You are his bride.
He wants to be the hand that provides.
Yeah.
If you've given up everything to serve the Lord, he really wants to be the hand that feeds you, and he will literally do that. But the more you take back or try to take back, he can't get his hand in there. Because you're getting in his way.
You can either do it yourself in your own strength or power, or you can let him do it and follow what he wants you to do. Where's Angel?
Well, I've got it. I can't. I've been looking down. This is our little Angel. She's been our little sweetheart for the longest time. Our little white footies, and just the sweetest little thing. So she's our director and our technician, and just a little perk on the video this time. So say bye-bye, Angel. Bye.
One of a family of 5, and they're all different, just like our children.
Yeah. You receive more cats, more dogs, more parrots, and heaven besides.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us again on this segment of Heaven Talk. The Lord be with you, and until we meet again, here, there, or in the air.
God bless you.